did it. We are here, everybody. It is Thursday. The NFL season is about to kick off in a matter of moments, or perhaps when you're watching this, the season's already started. I don't know. Listen, I don't know your life. I don't know your viewing schedule, but it feels like all the months and everything that we've gone through it's all been worth it now. It is like Christmas morning for many of us who sit there. We did the shopping, we did the preparations, we made lists, we did all this stuff. And now we have finally gotten to the point where NFL football has started. And until the middle of February, we're going to have NFL football to talk about. And I anticipate it being a tremendous season for the Chicago Bears. I have made no mistake. I have not said anything but that it's going to be a great year for the Chicago Bears. And we're going to talk about it here in a matter of moments. And in fact, Sammy, let's go ahead and start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Ray.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
Brought to you by Circa Sports Illinois, the sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome to the 2024 fantasy football season. Just the fantasy season, I should say. Listen, I'm still in NFL fantasy live mode, and I apologize about that. And speaking of things like fantasy and whatnot, the world's largest sports book in Las Vegas is right at your fingertips in Illinois. The Circa Sports app is sports betting the way it should be. Bet anywhere in Illinois and experience high betting limits, better moneyline splits, more in-game betting, and the best customer service. Download your new bookie today. Visit circasports.com and start betting like a pro from anywhere in Illinois. If you or anyone you know has a problem with gambling, please call 1-800-GAMBLER or text ILGAMB to 833-234. But the Circa Sports app is in Chicago, and it is a great time to be a part of the greatest sports book in Las Vegas. We were there a couple of weeks ago doing our fantasy football draft, and the hotel is amazing. What Derek Stevens and his brother Greg have been able to do down there. Our friend Dave Rossborough, who is the vice president of the organization, was there. Chris Waterman, who is taking care of us as well. We appreciate everybody who is taking care of us over there at the Circa Sports. If you're in Las Vegas over the weekend, you should pop in and check it out. Or if you're in Illinois, download the app. Now, let's talk about the season. And to do so, I think we need to bring in our co-host for the afternoon or for the evening. It's Greg Braggs of CHGL. I didn't want to go through any big lengthy thing, but how excited are you? This being Thursday, there's a game kicking off here in a matter of moments. How are we feeling about the upcoming season? Where are you at? What is your emotional level at right now?
I am so thrilled we made it through the off season. It's great. There's a lot of great games here in week one. Obviously, here as Bears fans, we can't wait for Sunday, right? And it's funny because last year leading up to week one, I think I said 100 times throughout that month, I'm going to throw up. Every time I thought about the Bears-Packers week one matchup at home and everything that was riding on that game with Justin Fields, Jordan Love's, the new era for the Packers. And there was just so much hanging and riding on that game that it made me nauseous thinking about it and knowing the history we had with the Packers. This year, it's weird. I have a sense of calmness about week one. This is the start of the Caleb Williams era, and whatever happens here week one isn't going to define the next 5 to 10 years. And that being said, I'm also very optimistic they can win this game with the Titans at Soldier Field. It's a matchup I think they match up well with. And so there's this odd sense of calm I have with the game. I don't feel as much pressure where I'm feeling that nauseousness. But there is still that level of excitement and optimism that we always seem to find ourselves in as Bears fans heading into the season. But this time it just does feel a little different, doesn't it, Adam?
Absolutely. I talked about this with Tyler Scott the other day, and I asked him the question because I wanted to get a player's perspective on this. And I know that you talked to Cole Kmet a lot as well, but I said, listen, when you look back at where we were, let's say the beginning of January, where Caleb Williams might not even declare to be a pro. Caleb Williams' dad has told people he will not accept being drafted by the Chicago Bears. He wants to be traded to the Washington Commanders. He's not a great teammate. People don't like him. He's not even that good anyways. And to think about where we're at right now, do you ever look back at that time? And it's not that long ago. It's what, maybe 9 months ago? Do you ever look back at that time and just laugh? And you're like, I can't believe the stuff that and it was more us that we had to go through.
Right.
Because we're the ones sitting there online, especially you and I, who spent a lot of time on Twitter defending it. And I remember people being like, oh, he wants to play in Washington. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, he had two opportunities to play at Maryland, and he chose Oklahoma and LA. So no, he does not want to play there because he's shown that he doesn't want to play there. Right. He's not a bad team, but all this, is it just, I don't know. I just feel like we went through the emotional ringer for so long that I'm just so happy to be here right now.
Yeah, it was extended, right? Because as soon as it started to feel like a reality that the Carolina Panthers were going to gift the Bears the number one pick, which started in kind of late October, really, where it was clear that the Panthers were the worst team in football. And so you monitored that situation through, and then the Bears had their ups and downs, and you started to connect dots. Then you get into the offseason, and it certainly got tumultuous, to say the least, between Bears fans. Even a lot of fans dubbed it the Civil War because there was just a lot of infighting between Bears fans on what the right decision for Ryan Poles, and some nasty words were traded, and it got ugly even at times. But at the end of the day, I've always been somebody that can take a step back and kind of laugh at all this. It's almost ridiculous how we act for our sports teams, especially Chicagoans with our sports teams. We're crazy about this. And I wear that with a lot of passion and pride. I'm no different than every single Chicago sports fan and every Chicago Bears fan. So now you get all the way to this moment, and we've gone through almost, 9 months of this. And now we're here. We finally get to see it for ourselves, a full game. And you're seeing some fans start to cross the picket line. I see the fan issue his official apology for the things that he said during the times of the Civil War. And hey, respect to you, take a step back, laugh at yourself a little bit. None of this is overly serious. Nobody's perfect. You're going to say things you don't mean. I said things I didn't mean in the heat of passion and in the spirit of competitive arguing and bantering on Bears Twitter. And at the end of the day, we're all Bears fans, and I'm excited for the future for all of us, the team, the fans, and everybody involved in this operation.
Yeah, I remember those times because we used to have Carmen Vitale who would join us, and she was always...
She just got engaged too, right?
Yeah, so congratulations to Carmen. Oh, I know. I was on the radio with her and Alex Curry over the weekend on Fox Sports Radio, and I said, I hope at some point when she's a big star that we get the when the behind the music of Carmen Vitale starts, that we get a little part of the first 5 minutes. We're like, oh yeah, by the way, and along the way, she was in the Sick Podcast with Adam Ray. Kind of like if they talked about Dave Gahan, like, hey, before Depeche Mode, he was in this band with four, you know what I'm saying? That's the kind of thing. That's what I was shooting for at that point.
Like Tupac when he was the backup dancer for the Humpty Dance.
Yeah, exactly. That is it's a great call. That is the perfect one. That's the one I'm going to start to steal. I think that's not me. I'm a big Tupac fan. By the way, I always go through I don't want to get in it with the Bears are playing. We're not going to go down there. I can go on to Phil's show and debate this. I've made these jokes on Phil's show. I'll leave it over there. You can go to the Tape Never Lies to hear my thoughts on Tupac and Biggie. But at the same time, but during that whole, the emotional time of Caleb and Justin and all that stuff that was going on, I felt, just to pat myself on the back, that even though I was supporting Justin Fields, I still was I'm not going to go through like the whole thing about, I'm not going to really choose this. I'm supportive of whatever Ryan Poles wanted to do.
Sure.
And as we watch Hard Knocks, and I got to be honest with you, I've not seen the latest Hard Knocks. I will probably finish the series tonight after the football game. Well, I'll watch the football game. I'll watch it again on the NFL Plus, and then I'll watch Hard Knocks, and then the challenge, and then probably not go to bed till 3. But that's the way it goes now. I will say, oh shoot, I got to get up early for GMFB on Friday. Dang it, that's just tomorrow. Okay, in any event, so I don't know when I'll finish Hard Knocks, but regardless, it feels like just watching the way that they've showed how Ryan Poles operates, pretty apparent. He was probably going to go with Caleb Williams probably somewhere in November, right?
Yeah.
Like I think we can kind of agree on that at this point.
Yeah, I would say so. When you look at some of the verbiage, coming out on when Justin came back from his injury, and now you've got that, final stretch and that window of opportunity for Justin to prove that he deserved to stay the quarterback one of the Chicago Bears. And then there was the release of the different criteria that they wanted to see.
Yeah.
And at that point,
the fourth quarter comebacks probably being the most damning.
Right. And so that to me was a big writing on the wall. Like, hey, he hadn't even sealed the deal at that point, even with all the talent and big games that he's even shown. And so then you juxtapose that with the fact that Caleb Williams is the prospect that he is, and the rare opportunity a team has, and the unique opportunity the Bears have. And no team, I think, ever in the history of football has had this quite of a unique opportunity to do it. The decision wasn't even for Poles to make. He had no choice. They had to make this move. Almost every team in the NFL would have made that move. And if you started running down the list of what team, if they had the number 1 pick, wouldn't draft Caleb Williams to keep the quarterback they have, that would have been a very, very, very short list. So, that I think spoke volumes. So now we're here, all that silliness about his character. I never bought into the emotional stuff. I'm a mama's boy. I was raised by a single mom. I was raised by nothing but women in my household. And I'm damn proud of that. Some of those strong, I was gifted being surrounded by nothing but strong women in my life. But that also comes with the fact that I was also raised to show my emotions. And anybody that knows me knows I'm a very emotional guy. I wear my heart on my sleeve. So when I see somebody, put their emotions out like that in public, I've never looked at that as a negative connotation to anybody's character. It just shows an authenticity. And that's something I value in people is when they're genuine and authentic. So I got nothing to hide. I show exactly who I am. I'm the same person you see on these shows if you ever met me at a tailgate. And so when I see a quarterback show who he is on the biggest stage like that, with all the eyes on him and everybody coming at him sideways, that shows me that this guy isn't afraid of what anybody thinks of him.
Yeah. It's funny is I didn't want to blow you up, but I was about to tell the story that you actually have a British accent. Like I actually hung out with you, and when you're not on the air, like, hello, are you kidding me? This guy, and I'm like, what happened? You're like, I'm actually from Yorkshire. No, I'm kidding. But I'm with you. I know that Sammy always loves to track the number of times that I cry on this show. I was filming a cameo for somebody the other day and was crying because I was giving a shout out to one of their team league members or something like that. So like, I'm with you. I have no problem with that. I think of guys like Dick Vermeil and Marty Schottenheimer who are out there. And I know it was always a running gag with Jim Rome of like players who cry. And you're like, yeah, but I don't know. I kind of feel like it's good and it's healthy to go out there and share some emotion. So I really don't get it either. And then like you see people, because I made the mistake of tweeting out something about like, hey, my fantasy team name is, Sublime with Rome Odunze. And so, which I thought was very clever. And the NFL Network picked it up and they were tweeting it out. And people are doing the names. And like the fact that the way that people make fun of Caleb, and you know what it is, and it's about the pink phone case, it's about the painted nails. the GQ thing, and it's like, you know what, boomers? Like, I understand that you can't kind of relate to the young kids anymore. You don't have to put it out on display because nobody cares anymore. Like, nobody cares anymore. Like, I know that you think like you're a manly person. Like, nobody like you're so out of touch. Like, if you find fault with Caleb Williams for the way he shares his emotion, you're just really expressing to everybody that you're out of touch with the way that the modern world works, and it's pretty apparent. But it's funny too because, well, I guess not funny, but like now, but now all this stuff is behind us, and we can finally look forward, and that's the best part of the season kicking off is that we can finally look forward. And you talked about this a moment ago that this is a big week for the Chicago Bears, a great opportunity to start off. And I know that our producers, to pull back the curtain, our producers love the Titans. So earlier this week, you're like, they could not wait to post the graphic that number one quarterback selected number one overall or like 0-14-1 in week one since 2000 whatever, 19 whatever. And so I feel this is a time that where the Bears are rewriting history, not only on the long level of never getting a quarterback. I think this small sample size of number one quarterbacks is a huge opportunity to start rewriting history. What do you think? I know you said we both think the Bears are going to win. What are your biggest takeaways of this game coming up?
Yeah, I heard this too. The Vegas even saying that most of the money is going the Titans' way, right? So
do it.
Yeah, hey, that's fine. The Bears always play better as the underdog at the end of the day. But as I said before, you can cite that stat that, hey, number one picks in their first game are 0-14-1, but show me all those number one picks and show me their situations that they're walking into.
Yeah.
Show me where they were playing week one, who they were playing week one. If you looked when the schedule was released and you looked at there was some different projection percentages of winning percentage chances of everybody on the Bears schedule. And the team that they had the highest percentage chance to win against was the Tennessee Titans, who just happened to be their week one opponent at home. Yeah. So, that's where I say, like, on paper, there's a reason for that. It's because on paper, they match up pretty well with them. The Titans defensive line with Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons is certainly something that's got my ears up. When you look at the Bears, if there's one uncertainty we have, it's the interior of that offensive line. We know who Tevin Jenkins is, and he's healthy and ready to go, and he's going to be a brute force in there. But they had a carousel at center trying to figure out if it was going to be Ryan Bates or Coleman Shelton, and they were rotating each day back and forth who was going to win that job. And then Coleman Shelton kind of won it by default because of injury.
Yeah.
So how is he going to play against some of those big dudes in the middle? And then Nate Davis, right? He was the one probably negative story of training camp, not practicing every day, and trying to understand. And even Matt Eberflus had some pretty strong words for challenging Nate Davis in the press conferences to the media. So you could tell that they kind of were reaching their end of their rope with Nate Davis. Now he's returned. He's been practicing, but have they had enough time to build that continuity? Because that's what it's all about, right? And any successful offense has their starting five offensive line practicing and playing every day, every week, from the summer to the end of the season. That's, what your hope is. And NFL is going to have injuries and things of that nature, but you want as much continuity to build that chemistry as you can. So have they built enough to take on, a Titans defensive line that certainly looks like it could create some pressure? They just traded for Ernest Jones, a linebacker that certainly can get to the quarterback and blitz. And so that's going to be the biggest question is, can that offensive line hold up, create a healthy pocket for Caleb Williams to feel comfortable in his first start? Can they identify where the blitz is coming from when it comes? Can they establish a run, against those big uglies? That to me is the biggest key in this game across the board. I think the defense will hold up just fine. Bears have a very talented defense. I think all the weapons around Caleb will do what they've always done in this league. But the biggest question is how Caleb can operate And can that offensive line give him enough comfort to build up to what some of the flashes we saw in the preseason?
Yeah, and I do. The one thing that I like that's going in the Bears' favor is that there's a new head coach in Tennessee. So there's a lot of unknown. It's not like they're going up against an established team and a program that's been together for quite some time, and we know what we're getting. We don't know what we're getting out of any one of those coaches. So that, to me, is a little bit of an advantage for the Bears right there, because defensively, it's not like we're going up against Brian Flores. If we were going up against Brian Flores and the Minnesota Vikings in week 1, I would be like, okay, now this is a real like note like that. Anybody, even D'Amico Ryans, I think, who the Bears are going to play in week 2, those kind of guys will pose some problem, like more additional problems. Not that the defensive coordinator in Tennessee is not talented, not that they don't have, like, he comes from the Ravens. Like, it's okay. Like, good players and good everything like that. So I do feel like we're going to hold up a little bit better. And when you look at like some of the teams around the league who have had some issues over the course of the offseason, CeeDee Lamb didn't report until 2 weeks ago. Trent Williams just signed this week. Jamar Chase finally got back to practice. The Bears' problems are small in comparison. So I think that's a huge advantage. And I think we're examining it because obviously, that's the team that we follow. So of course but I think on the whole, like if you sit there and you were talking to somebody in a national thing, like, Nate Davis wasn't there, you'd be like, be serious. Like, it's not Trent Williams. You guys should still be fine. We still love the guys that we went out there and got. I'm curious though.
Well, think about all the unknowns, right? You said the Titans have some unknowns going into this game. Well, last year, that's who the Bears were. There was so much unknowns. We were really excited, and we thought we could beat the Packers, but there was just so much unknowns. It was a newer defense, younger players, Jervon Dexter in his rookie year, Tyreek Stevenson in his rookie year. Who are they going to be? They're not nearly, they weren't ready to take that huge step week 1. Now they're a second year older. You didn't have Montez Sweat. You know who Montez Sweat is now, right? Yeah. You had new linebackers with Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. Like, how are they going to gel together? You had DJ Moore, a new wide receiver here. How's he going to fit with Justin Fields? Who is Justin Fields? There was just so much unknown with the Bears, and we were banking on it all working out, and it took them 5 weeks just to get their gears, going. But now this year, there's just so much less unknowns. The only one really being Caleb Williams in a lot of ways. And like, of all the things, like, he just looks like he's ready and is surrounded by a lot of things that are known. So that's going to help him develop, and maybe it won't take as much time for him to catch on.
Yeah, I think Keenan Allen is pretty well known. DeAndre Swift is pretty well known in this league. There is something to that. And that's what I always keep coming back to with the Tennessee Titans. And I try to tell our producers, I'm like, and I've said this because Jamie Erdahl on the NFL Network predicted the Titans to make the playoffs. Peter Schrager was like, I was close to it, but I hedged off. And I was kind of like with Peter, like, I like the Titans a lot more right now than what I saw 3 months ago. But when you look at the team, and again, I like the pieces, and offensively too. Like, you look at the Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins and Tyler Boyd, who played in Callahan's system in Cincinnati. Like, there is a ton of things to like. And Tajay Spears looked pretty good as a rookie. I'm a lot more optimistic about him than I was in the past a couple of months ago. Tony Pollard, I'm like, you burned me last year. And we don't really see running backs that often. I know we're counting on DeAndre Swift to do this. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But what it comes down to me, and it's what you alluded to, it's like, what is Will Levis? Like, what is Will Levis going to do? Last season, now we talk about Caleb Williams, like, hey, unproven rookie. And I'm like, okay, yes, but he's a Heisman Trophy winner who we've been watching since his freshman season at Oklahoma. We got a pretty good clue of what he's all about. Right. Will Levis played at Kentucky. You did not watch Kentucky games. Don't even front. Don't even pretend like you did. You didn't watch Kentucky games. He had that big game. He came out and he had that huge game against, I forget who it was. And I know Sammy will be like, it was the call. I don't care who it was. Sammy, don't even bother typing. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it because I don't care. I like Will Levis. But it's like, yeah, he had a huge game. Mitch Trubisky once threw 6 touchdowns in an NFL professional game too. So it's like, I get it. That to me, that's what I keep coming back to is who is Will Levis? Because whenever I have to do these preseason predictions and people will have me on and the Tennessee stations have me on and the Titan podcasts are having me on, like, why do you pick? I'm like, you know what? Because like you have a first year head coach and you have a quarterback who's not proven. And for me, when I'm trying to project these things, I can't give them the benefit of the doubt. And so I need to go out there and usually see some tangible evidence. And I think that's kind of where the Titans are right now. Again, if they make the playoffs, I'm not shocked, but I think this is the best time to be playing the Titans.
Well, and week ones can always be weird, right? So you use that old moniker if you're a Titans fan to say, oh, hey, any given Sunday, especially in those week one matchups. But at the end of the day, if the Titans can come on the road and Will Levis can sling the rock against this secondary of Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson, never mind Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker, as the safeties in the backfield, in the back. So, they have a pretty loaded secondary. And so there isn't many windows to throw in with these guys. And so if you're Will Levis and you play well against those guys on the road week one, hey, then those people that got the Titans in the playoffs might be onto something. But I'm with you. Like, Will Levis has got to prove that. That's a really tough order for him, especially with new wide receivers here. You're trying to build chemistry, learn what windows to throw into, learn the wide receivers' tendencies when the real bullets are flying. Those are things that you can't get going until the season actually starts. And that certainly does apply for Caleb Williams as well. No one's acting as if it doesn't. But at the end of the day, is the Titans secondary as tough as the Bears secondary? And I'm honestly asking that question because we're more dialed in here in Chicago. And I'm certainly curious to find that out here on Sunday. But something tells me that their secondary isn't exactly at the level that Chicago is. And at the end of the day, the game is being played at Soldier Field. And that, I think, does count for something.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I was talking about a moment ago, is that if you're on the other end and you're the Titans coming into this game on the road, you're also going up against, and this is what the Bears will be facing in week 2, you're going up against a defensive-minded head coach who, during the preseason, showed the world what he's going to be all about this year. I think it was the game against the Bengals where, you see Kyler Gordon blitzing in and you see how much pressure they were dialing up. It looks like a huge point of emphasis for this Bears team to get after the quarterback from a variety of different ways. They might not have the pass rushers that we're expecting at this moment, that the team might, be a lot better by the end of the season. But for right now, they're really going to get after the quarterback. And I think for a young signal caller to come into Chicago with a crowd that is going to be juiced to the gills. Last year was exciting. I remember, like, we sit here and we're going to be back, by the way, for anybody who's listening in Southern California, we'll be back at Rip Beer Company in the tap room where we've always watched Bears games. We will be still sitting there. We will have a lot more people with us now because there's a lot of USC people who have already told me, like, well, we're coming down. We want to see Caleb Williams and how he performs in the NFL. People who have not really latched onto an NFL team, even with the Rams and Chargers coming back to the town, they're like, I think we're going to follow the Bears just because Caleb Williams is there. You guys seem to be having a lot of fun here. So there's this. So as much excitement as there was last season, and there certainly was, and you talked about it before, this is a more justified, like, we're starting to see the fruits of our labor, at least of Ryan Poles' labor. And it's going to be a tough task for a quarterback to go in there and win this game, especially one who, is a second round pick, fell out of the first round, has some work to do. I'm not saying that he's not good. Sincerely, I like Will Levis. As a matter of fact, as somebody who collects cards, I've been buying some Will Levis cards. And by the way, at Windy City Sports Cards, they specialize in buying and selling all things related to Chicago sports. Whether you are a diehard fan of the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, or Sky, they've got you covered with an extensive selection as well of sports memorabilia and collectibles. And again, if you want to go out there and get some Will Levis, go for it. Go grab some Will Levis. Go grab some any player that you really like. Or if you want to go out there, I got to get rid of these. I'm not getting rid of my Justin Fields ones, but I got to diversify a little bit and try to go through. I remember a couple of years ago when everybody was buying all the Trey Lance cards and being at sports card shows, and they were just like, yeah, we're out there. Everybody wants Trey Lance. And I'm like, over Justin Fields. Now, neither one of them have quite worked out. But this is the thing that Will Levis is going through. So what is your, I don't know, what happens though? If the worst case happens, I remember last season after week 1, it was just so demoralizing,
right,
to try to pick yourself back up off the ground after that one. Like I could not fathom that. I feel like there's a little bit more grace built in. Like I anticipate winning, not like I would be happy to lose, but I'm like, I feel like everything is built so well that if something doesn't go right, for sure. But I feel like there's a little bit of a grace. Have you even do you even allow yourself to think about things like that?
Well, yeah, I always am monitoring the psychology of Bears fans and the psychology of myself, heading into games like this. And sometimes that's my tell on how it's actually going to go instead of what comes out of my mouth, which is always just a bunch of meatball hype. So yeah, I've considered all scenarios, and I have found it fascinating to watch fans emotionally hedge this game before it's even played. And so you're seeing a lot of, temper of excitement and hype and expectation. They're still a year away, right? Oh, this is going to take time. Caleb Williams is going to, be better in the second half of the year once he's got his feet under him. And, hey, don't underestimate the Titans. They look good. It's easier to hype up the Titans because they're not ours, so
yeah.
Hype them up all day. If you're wrong, doesn't matter. But with the Bears, you don't want to overextend the hype, because if you're wrong, then you're hurt just as bad as you were last year. At least that's how I think fans feel about it. So it has been interesting to watch the guarded optimism, the cautious optimism of Bears fans heading into this game. Like, I don't want to be hurt again. But as I said to start, like, there just isn't as much riding on this game as there was last year in week 1. It was put up or shut up time for the Bears and the Justin Fields era last year, because if he finishes the year strong, then you're getting a new contract. You're entering your 4th year as the quarterback, in the NFL, and most quarterbacks get a big deal at that point. But he still had to prove that. He had to fight through 2 years of rebuild. So he I'll always give him that benefit of the doubt that he didn't get the fair 3-year shake that maybe some other quarterbacks do. But at the end of the day, that was the cards dealt to him. And so we all knew it was put up or shut up time for Caleb, especially when you considered the fact that we had the Panthers' number 1 pick. Yeah. So, it isn't the same way this year. This is the road is much longer now for Caleb Williams, and the Bears have a bright days ahead. Next off season, they've got a 1st rounder and 2 second-round picks. They got a boatload of more free agency money to throw at this team if that's what Ryan Poles wants to do. But at the end of the day, for me, I'm still pushing all my chips in. Yeah. Of course, I'm going to be pissed off if they lose on Sunday. Hey, I'm not going to write the season off, but I said the minute the schedule came out that this is a must-win game, because I do think this is win now mode. The window is officially open, people. And anybody that wants to try to hide from that is just scared because they don't want to be hurt. If they fall short of expectation, I'm not scared of it. The window's open. They got to win this game because they play the Texans week 2, and I don't want the Bears starting 0-2. So this is a big game. They need to win it. If they don't, I'm not going to, pour myself into $60 at Taco Bell. But at the end of the day, I'll be pissed, but we'll move on to the Texans and see where things go. But, there's 2 different roads going on. Win now, and of course our future's bright, and both things can be true.
Yeah. And the funny part of it too is, I think for Caleb, like, I'm not concerned about Caleb. Caleb Williams is going to be a good NFL quarterback. I have no doubt about that in my mind. But when you talk about must-win games and you talk about, got to go out there and do what you do, I mean, Caleb's going to be around for 5 years, probably. Right. At least 4. 3, okay, whatever.
15.
But like, if you're Matt Eberflus, like, there's like, I mean, I would doubt anything severely would happen, but again, like, there's got to be he's got to feel a lot of pressure because at some point, if things like, we can look at last year and we've talked about this at great length, 7 wins, 3 wins that they blew in the fourth quarter that they should have won. At some point, it comes for you. And this is not something that's just a Matt Eberflus problem. Like, if you think about like Sean McDermott in Buffalo, like Sean McDermott has fired everybody. Like, you've ran through all your scapegoats. There's really nobody else left to blame at this point. And similarly, Matt Eberflus fired both his coordinators last year, got rid of Justin Fields. You bring in Keenan Allen. You draft Caleb Williams. I doubt that it's this severe, but you got to go out there and start putting some skins on the wall, because if you don't, there is a guy hanging out on Underdog Fantasy. There's a guy who shows on Sirius with Jim Gray and all that stuff and I was on a show in Toronto this week, and I was talking because they were talking about coaches on the hot seat. I'm like, honestly, like, if you think about the jobs that Bill Belichick would find like appealing, I think Chicago vaults to the top of the list. If for nothing else, besides Caleb and everything, Bill Belichick has that sense of history. And if he becomes the all-time winningest coach in a Bears hoodie, I think that would also mean something to him.
Yeah, Bill Belichick's always going to be intriguing to anybody that enjoys winning football. He's done that for 2 decades here, longer with the Patriots. But it's interesting because everybody's been lauding, Matt Eberflus for his makeover. And we talked to Mark Potash, our guy Potsy here at the Chicago Sun-Times, local Bears beat reporter. And he framed it really nicely. He said, I think the makeover for Matt Eberflus has been mostly cosmetic, right? And there's still a lot more for him to prove. And that's something I certainly have been banging the drum for. Like, I can acknowledge that he's made some adjustments. I thought he did a really good job handling this preseason with the reps for the starters, the development of Caleb Williams, the way the continuity and chemistry of this team has come together. He deserves credit for that. He deserves credit for the development of a lot of these players. If you look on the defensive side of the ball, the way Javon Dexter seems to be trending, more specifically, look at Tyreek Stevenson and Kyler Gordon. Look at how their development, and even the back end guys, like Josh Blackwell, who's been here for a few years, scrappy defensive back, that has found his way on the roster the last 3 years. So he's shown to develop guys. Jack Sanborn, look at how an undrafted free agent linebacker, he's developed him. Look at Tevin Jenkins. They moved him from tackle to guard. Look at how he continues to get better and better, and looks like he's deserving of a new contract. But the biggest question with Matt Eberflus is, how's he going to do with his in-game management? Because last year it was all over the place, and there were times on both sides of the ball in those situational clutch moments, defensively or offensively, that the coaching and the play calling was not up to par. And then he'd follow it up with the post-game pressers where he would not take enough accountability for my taste. And so now you get to this point when you talk about the hot seat. I don't think he's on one, because if I'm Ryan Poles and I decide to stick with Matt Eberflus, I'm not going to go for the Jim Harbaugh dream in January. Fine. But now you have to kind of reset this whole thing and give it a 2-year window at minimum, and give this an opportunity to really grow and flourish. That being said, last year, they come into the season with a lot of expectation. They had enough to win. Were they a perfect roster? No. But were they playing the Kansas City Chiefs every week? No. They could have beat the Packers at home week 1. I'm not going to excuse the roster for the failure of that game. They could have beat the Bucs week 2 on the road. They lost on the final drive of the game. And then the Denver game, the 4th game, they were up 27-6 or something and lost the game. They had a 99% chance of winning the game, and they lost it because of coaching in a lot of ways. And so they start the season 0-4. Now you go to this year. You start 0-1. Nah, he's not going to be on the hot seat. There will be some meatballs out there calling for his job. But then you start the season 0-2 potentially. If you lose in Houston, tough team on the road. I don't have high expectations for that game. Certainly hope they can win it. But if you start the season 0-2, now you're staring 0-3 down the barrel at Indianapolis. Now you're starting to get down that road that you're talking about, Adam, where is that where the hot seat rhetoric
You would have the Rams in week 4 with Sean
exactly.
McVay.
And you can't start 0-4 back-to-back years. It doesn't matter what anybody says or what your plan was in January when you said you're going to run it back with him. So that's what he's got to avoid. That's why week 1 is just paramount to get out the gates, get a win, get a little momentum, go into week 2 playing with house money and see where you go from there. But I think it's a layered question and a layered thought, but at the end of the day, I'd still hold serve and say, nope, we're going to give this whole operation a 2-year window. Because if you fire the coach, then you're resetting the whole offensive, coaching staff that was brought here to develop Caleb Williams. And we saw it with Jay Cutler, how many different offensive coordinators he had to go through, a very talented quarterback, but never any kind of continuity with an offensive system. And they kept changing it up and they could never get it right to the point where it didn't work out. And so you hope that Caleb Williams can supersede that, but you also hope this all works out with everything they have with the Bears.
That's a tough ask when you're doing that. And we even talked about this because yesterday, or was it Tuesday, where Eric Lambert had tweeted out like a photo of or a highlight of Greg Olsen catching the ball, and they're like, hey, you know what? Imagine Mike Martz just being like, no, I don't want this guy on my team. I remember thinking too, and I even wrote this, is I said, you know what? If Mike Martz had come into my office, been like, we need to get rid of Greg Olsen, I would go, okay, I'll think about that. And then Mike Martz would have showed up the next day with the locks changed and been like, no, dude, you're out of here. Like, I'm not putting up with this. Like, there's just no, we're not doing any of this. And I don't want to, and that's why I'm with you in thinking that he's probably going to get 2 years at the minimum, barring an outright just horrible start, a mutiny by the players, because that is the one thing, is that the players really did buy into everything, and the players never seemed to hedge off of him. They played hard the entirety of the season.
Yep.
It just felt like it's so tough not to, like, I'm trying not to slam Justin Fields, but at the same time, it's like, this is a guy that didn't beat out Russell Wilson, who Russell Wilson didn't play this whole preseason. Like, I think at some point, even the biggest Justin Fields fans like myself, and listen, I will still sit here and say Justin Fields was not dealt a fair hand. That if Justin Fields had gone to a number of different organizations, we might be looking at him a lot differently. And it's the unfortunate part of the business, because timing with so much of this is everything. Like, you really, like, listen, if the Colts had selected, Ryan Leaf over Peyton Manning, like, how is the world different? Like, what does the NFL landscape look like? And the Chargers end up with Peyton Manning? Like, does he do his thing? Like, there's so many different things that are so not trivial, but it's a big crapshoot. Like, it really is. So all that was notwithstanding, I still think that the quarterback play is going to supersede everything, because listen, and we're sitting here, we're talking about Matt Eberflus making mistakes. And as a fellow coach, and we're talking about a coach of the year here, the AYSO section 143 girls.
I didn't know I was in elite company. I apologize.
That trophy right there, where is it? This trophy says AYSO section 143, U6 through U10 girls. That's 3 sections of girls. Coach of the year, right there.
All right.
I understand that sometimes these game situations get away from you, and you learn and you grow on and you get better.
Right.
But like with everything that we're saying, like, hey, like, there were some missed opportunities here. The Denver game was brutal. This was kind of bad. The Cleveland thing, like, all that being said, they still won 7 games.
Yep.
Still won 7 games. With a quarterback who wasn't playing to the expectation. 2 quarterbacks. Right? Yeah, that's a fun thing too. Like, I was thinking about this watching Hard Knocks recently, of like, let's say Caleb Williams wasn't in the draft. would they have, like, I know that they wouldn't have, but you're like, would they have just rolled with Tyson Bagent? Like, I think Tyson Bagent, Jaden Daniels is pretty good.
If they didn't have a number 1 pick at all, maybe that, but I think if they had the number 5 pick or
they go
not
JJ
the number
McCarthy
1,
or something,
it
like
would be it would have been JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
That's my
fair
my
enough.
guess.
Fair enough. But still, like, you think about this thing and like they went 2-2 with Tyson Bagent. So they're like, you know what? Like, again, I've now, because I think we've just had too much time before games started to really dissect these type of things. But I truly believe, like, and I say this to people all the time, like, the Bears are lousy. The Bears are going to win. Like, people who say the Bears are going to win 4 or 5 games, you're like, they won 7 last year. They won 7. Like, you're forgetting, like, they were not the number 1 pick because they were the worst team in the league.
Right.
They were because Carolina. And I remember going into last year, people kept telling me, they would be like, oh, rank. And this was the funniest joke. And people were like, oh, rank, the Bears are going to be the worst. They're going to end up with the number 1 pick. And I would make the joke, like, I don't think Carolina's that bad. Like, whatever, the Bears suck. And they would go on. And those people were right. I mean, I was wrong because Carolina was that bad. But again, the same thing. And I again, this is like the overanalyzing thing. This happened to me during the Super Bowl of like hedging off of the Chiefs pick that I had made rationally 2 weeks prior. I was good. I didn't need to think about it. I should have just locked it in the vault, written it in stone, put it on, just set it in. Chiefs win. Don't even worry about it. And then I had to be an idiot on a Saturday night, like, the 5, like, I'm done. The 49er fans have gotten to me. Like, I have to let social media just roll off my back and be like, no, like, enough. Stop it. The Bears are going to win, and they're going to win it handily. Like, I'll tell you right now, Tyson Bagent is going to be the second best quarterback on the field on Sunday. Like, this Bears team is going to go, like, no, like you said, like, why am I being so deferential? Like, I don't care. Like, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Listen, I've been wrong before. I'm probably going to be wrong in the future. But I have felt confident about this Bears team for quite some time, and it's felt justified for the first time in years. So right. I don't want to hedge off of this.
Well, and last year, so just trying to compare and contrast. So last year, I picked the Bears to beat the Packers week 1. I was super excited I kept telling Packers fans when I saw them, like, time's up. It's our turn now. Yeah. But you know what? In a lot of ways, I was basing a lot of that off of the uncertainty with the Packers. I was really banking on the fact that I was like, there's just no way it's going to work out again for them. Right. And so
I'm still not convinced that it's going to. And Jordan Love was terrible in the beginning of the season. And that's the thing that's the most frustrating part, is like, he was brutal.
Yeah, he wasn't. And in the first half of that game, it was a brutal game for both the Bears and Packers. And it was just the Bears couldn't do anything for 3.5 quarters that the Packers finally blew it open. And so, the Bears end up losing that game. But this year, I'm not basing it off of my uncertainty with this team. I feel confident about what I've seen here so far. Last year, go check my receipts. Okay, I was wrong about the Bears winning week 1 last year. If that's what you want to bank it off of, so be it. But I also had voiced a lot of different questions and concerns of things I was seeing at camp. And so go back and run that record, because this year at camp, I haven't been as uncertain. I have really enjoyed what I've seen from this team at training camp and in the preseason. And that's what leads me to believe that they are going to have a very good game here week 1. And I'm not that afraid to say that. I'm not, of course, I'll be disappointed if they lose, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to come out and play really well. And I think Caleb Williams is going to play really well. And because I think that the Titans defensive line is going to be able to stop the run, I think Caleb Williams is going to throw it all over the yard. It might take him a little bit to get going, like you saw, in the preseason against the Bengals, where they had a couple 3-and-outs. Oh, they also didn't have DeAndre Swift playing that game, and they were throwing it 3 straight times. This offense is going to look a little different here come Sunday. And so to me, I think this does set up for a huge Caleb Williams moment. I got him throwing 3 touchdowns at him. I really do. I think he's going to play great. And I'm so excited to see it. I'm so excited for Bears fans to live it. And I'm so excited for all of us to celebrate it when it happens.
Yeah, I'm going to be sleeping easy. Sleeping like when I have my Manta sleep mask, which I have carried around with me across the country, touring places like Chicago, North Carolina, and Pittsburgh and all that stuff. It is the only mask designed and optimized for the deepest possible sleep in any environment. 100% blackout for deeper sleep, infinitely adjustable for personalized fit, absolute comfort. Visit mantasleep.com. Use the code SICKBEARS for 10% off. And I'll tell you, like, these things work so well. And I think I already told the story. I was in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago at Circa doing my fantasy drafts. I wouldn't wear the mask the morning that I was leaving because I was afraid I was going to sleep through the wake-up call and all that stuff. It is that comfortable, and I am sleeping that easy. By the way, should I mention that this shirt is from Homage too, by the way? I know, like, we get some cool stuff from them. There's a little Homage thing. Let's talk about Homage. They specialize in ultra comfy, high quality looks, repping sports, pop culture, and more legendary moments. You can learn more about Homage with the link in the description. This shirt, the Super Bowl 20 shirt, is from Homage. I'm not old enough to have actual merch from the Super Bowl. They got cool wrestling stuff. Like, they had a Saturday night's main event shirt. I think I'm going to get one of these times. They have these new sweatshirts. I have an Angel sweatshirt that I've been wearing all season, although it's now in the 40s here. That's in the hundreds for the Americans. It's been in the 40s here lately, so I was able to go to an Angels game without it. Homage has great stuff. That's all I wanted to say.
Do. They do.
They really do. And I feel like we can already start wearing the Homage stuff. I've got I had the NBA Jam shirt with Caleb and Roma Dunze, which I think is perfect. Let me ask you this, though, about Roma Dunze.
Yep.
I've been saying this on the NFL Fantasy Live over the last couple of weeks, is that I truly believe, and I love DJ Moore and I love Keenan Allen, and I think Keenan Allen's going to make a couple of clutch plays in week 1. But I feel by the end of the season, it's going to be Roma Dunze who is going to be making a lot of the big plays. I think DJ Moore will crush people and crush souls, but I think Roma Dunze ends up being the biggest X factor. And when we get into those divisional games and teams are keying on Keenan and DJ Moore, that it's actually Roma Dunze that does the most damage. What do you think about that?
Well, again, just like we've been saying with fans saying like, oh, in the second half, that's really when Caleb's going to take off. And you're saying this here about Rome. I expect Rome to have a big game on Sunday.
You do. Yeah. Cynthia Freeland did too. Cynthia Freeland was already like, no, it's going to happen week 1.
I do, because all the eyes are going to be on DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, and rightfully so. They are, they have the resume that warrants that attention. And Roma Dunze is their guy that's going to stretch the field, right? So, I think they're all interchangeable, whether they're playing in the slot or in the outside. You're going to see them line up in different spots. But at the end of the day, Roma Dunze is the guy that's going to take the top off the defense, him and Tyler Scott. So I think both of those guys are going to have an opportunity for some deep balls, and some different double moves. And Roma Dunze is just a smooth route runner, a real smooth route runner. And his speed, I think, is deceiving because of his size. And so you look at, the opportunity that Roma Dunze has fairly quickly, that I think that Caleb and Rome are going to connect for some big plays. And then when you get into the red zone, I think Cole Kmet's always going to be somebody that you're looking at down there. But I also think Roma Dunze, the king of the 50-50 ball, as one guy that covered, Washington sports, we had him on in the offseason, a contested catch god in Roma Dunze is somebody you're also going to be looking at in the red zone. And so if he just manages to keep his feet in bounds this time,
I think, stop it, you.
Well, no, I'm not hating on him. I feel good about it. I was one of the many that were excusing him for the non-painted lines, or painted.
Well, I already put that out there. That end zone better look completely different on Sunday.
It's going to be all painted up, and Rome will be just fine. It was his first time at Soldier Field, so be it. Hey, we got 2 touchdowns on that drive, so he was just doing Caleb a favor, giving him an extra rep. So, I think that Roma Dunze, if Caleb's throwing 3 touchdowns, I'm betting one of them's going to Rome.
I said this on the show the other day with Tyler on the Tyler Scott show this comes from the fantasy thing, is that, as everybody sits here and tries to talk about which wide receiver do you want in fantasy. And I'm like, I guarantee you the first touchdown goes to Tyler Scott. I'll put Gerald Everett in the mix too, but it's going to go to somebody who is not highly rostered in fantasy football, and it's going to be a Tyler Scott thing. Like it would make just perfect sense. Like this is all set up. And I said this to Tyler. I said, this is set up for you, brother. I go, this is the thing. Like everybody is so like geeked, and everybody's sitting there at Circus Sports. They're taking their like little props about like, hey, which receiver is doing this? Is like, I would love, I don't bet. I'm not allowed to bet. I'm allowed to talk about it, but I'm not allowed to bet NFL. I went through my gambling training on Wednesday, and
I didn't know.
But I'm like, this sets up because I've seen it happen way too much. Hell, I do a segment about it called "That Helps No One." I forgot to tell him. I'm like, there will never be, and I know the producer will send me a thing about like, okay, so for That Helps No One, we're gonna put Tyler Scott in there and be like, no, we're not doing it, and I'm gonna make him pull the sound from the Tyler Scott show, and be like, I called this on my show. So I think it's cool. Who scores the first touchdown for the Bears?
Oh man,
I'm gonna do. You called 3. Pick who it is.
I know it's exciting. It's exciting.
Listen, I put it on. I said Tyler Scott. That's where I'm going. I have no problem with that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with DeAndre Swift.
All right.
I think you're gonna get a 3rd and 5 drop back. DeAndre Swift is blocking, and then a little delayed route slips outside. Caleb surveys his options, dunks it right. DeAndre Swift makes the guy miss, walks into the end zone, touchdown. Now, if that happens, we're clipping this.
Oh yeah, we'll clip it. Well, our producers won't. As a matter of fact, I'm actually worried about ending the show because I know both Sammy and Anello are just sitting there shaking their heads. They're upset. If Anello's probably left already, like he's probably thrown off the headset and he's walked into the Montreal night upset that we've been besmirching the Titans. And again, I'm trying to be as deferential for the Titans. I will give it to you. I think the Titans will be good. I like what the Titans are doing. I like the direction that they're heading. But like Greg was saying, like they're in a very similar spot to the Bears were last year. So it's cool to have all that hope, and you should have hope, but you got to hope that your quarterback is good. And we still have not received that. He looked good. He had that one game. It was awesome. I remember it. He was in the Tennessee Oilers uniform. They did play a season or two as the Tennessee Oilers, so they get the spoils right there. But yeah, I'm gonna go Tyler Scott. You got DeAndre Swift. I think that it's again, like I'm just ready for. What do you think? I know this will probably come back to haunt us for even bringing this up. How do you think the Lions and Packers do this week? Like I think both of them. I think the Lions win, but I think the Packers. And if you're watching this after the fact that the Packers beat the Eagles by 30, I'll look like an idiot, but I'm like, I think the Packers might be in trouble in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously going to be vehemently rooting against the Packers on Friday, and I have a good friend that just moved down the street from my house. He's a big Eagles fan, so I told him, I'm like, hey, I'm going to come on by, and we're going to be best friends on Friday night. But I don't feel great about that game for the Eagles. You said earlier that you think the Packers still have more to prove. I am very impressed by what they're doing in Green Bay. I think Jordan Love is a very good quarterback. He has the look. You look at the way he finished the season last year, man, they came close to making a deep run in the playoffs. And so I think, with Matt LaFleur calling plays and Jordan Love slinging it to all those different young wide receivers, they have the youngest roster in the NFL, but you wouldn't know it with the way they play. And then I just think there's a lot of uncertainty with the Eagles, and they've really, this is a big game for them because, there's just, with everything that happened last year and their collapse and, the questioning of leadership and changing of defensive coordinators, can their defense hold up against Jordan Love and those guys? I don't know, man. You got Josh Jacobs over there too. So as much as I want the Eagles to win, I feel like the Packers are going to win that game. Now the Lions, I think the Lions are probably right now the best team in the division until proven otherwise. I think their roster speaks for itself. And so I'd feel better about the Lions winning on Sunday than I would the Packers winning on Friday.
Yeah. again, it's funny though. You're like, you look at the way Jordan Love finished the season. Yeah, game crippling interception against the 49ers, like them all. Like that's the moment he became a Packers quarterback for me. Once he choked that game away against the 49ers, I said he truly is a Packers quarterback, a tradition unlike any other. And I don't know how I feel about Nick Sirianni as a head coach, but I'm like, I still don't get Matt LaFleur. And I know it was James Coe who was on. James Coe is an independent counsel who was like, Matt LaFleur's offenses have gotten better after he's left. He left the Rams, they got better. He left the Titans, they got better. He joins Aaron Rodgers, and now all of a sudden, he was this wonderkin. And I don't even know what that word means. It's weird, wonderkin. Okay, I know what it means.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where they finish strong, but it reminds me of Trubisky in 2018, where you're like, look at the way the Bears finished. Like Trubisky should have had a game-winning drive against the Eagles. Cody Parkey's first kick had counted, and then you know what? Like I'm like that. He's your Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, but Mitch didn't have a game like Jordan Love did against the Cowboys in the playoffs. And
he didn't get a chance to play the Cowboys. He probably would have if they would have been the 2 seed instead of the.
Oh wait, they didn't play the who did they rip apart?
No, Jordan did. I'm saying Mitch Trubisky didn't get a chance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. I see what you're saying. Well,
give Mitch Trubisky. Give him Jason Garrett in the playoffs, and I think it's a different. We might be talking about a different quarterback right now.
It could be, but at the end of the day, I think they were winning games because of Jordan Love, and for Mitch, they weren't winning games because of him for the majority of the second half of that season. So obviously there is some differences, but hey, I'm all for the Mitch Trubisky trajectory for Jordan Love.
What you're saying though doesn't fit my narrative. So
I know
it's completely like baseless.
Look at this this meatball infighting we're having.
Let's just make fun of the Packers. Like, what does it matter? People are like, oh, you're just gonna. I'm like, we've been losing to the Packers for years.
I'm trying to, I don't know what's going. I don't know what's going on with my meatballery lately.
Don't placate them or the Lions.
I'm not placating anything, but like I picked.
The Lions. Like we don't gotta acknowledge that the Lions have done anything either.
I picked the Bears to win 10 games, and looking at their schedule, I'm like, well, I could see them starting 7-1. And then like finding their way to 12 wins, but I still just talked myself down, even though if I went week to week matchups, the number of wins doesn't equal 10. It equals much more than that. But at the end of the 15. Day, yeah, exactly. I had to like dial it. I'm like, okay, well, it's not going to go how you think it's going to go. And there's just going to be so many different variables that come into play week to week. So I just dropped it back down to 10 because I'm hedging my meatballery this year, I guess.
I know, and people are like, are you sure you want to have the Bears sweeping the Lions? And I'm like, if you watched those two teams play each other last year, you would pick a Bears sweep too. Yep. I think where I lost my way is picking the Bears to split with the Packers, which whatever. But like, if this is the thing, like if it comes down to it, and we're talking about the Caleb being the guy that he is, like it would be apropos. And it's not unprecedented. The Lions 2 years ago went into, because like everybody's like, well, the Bears beating the Packers in week 18, keeping them out of the playoffs. And that would never happen. That's the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm like, it happened 2 years ago with the Lions. Like, no, it's precedented. There's precedent. If you're a lawyer, there's precedent here of a team that has been owned by the Packers for generations, comes out in week 18 with nothing to play for,
right,
and beats the Packers.
Yep.
Like that's the Matt LaFleur calling card. More than anything.
And that's where I think a lot of Bears fans want to be, like in this safe place of, well, we're not, ready for NFC Championship and Super Bowl, but we're where the Lions were last year. And that's what they want is that team.
We should have beat the Packers in week 18 last year.
Is on the rise. And exactly, like as flawed as the Bears were and as many issues as they had, it's not like the Packers ran away with that game because the Bears defense
scored 17 points. Like right. That's the thing. Like everybody was like, oh, well, look how well he played down the stretch. He was destroying. I'm like, oh, he didn't destroy the Bears, but he had 2 touchdowns. I'm like, oh, he did. Okay, yeah, he had 2 touchdowns. That's true, but he also, was it a fumble or was it an interception? He had a very Packers-like crippling turnover, which should have cost them the game, but the Bears couldn't take it. There's a hallmark for the Bears going back to 2018, and not Kyler Gordon, but the guy we didn't get, the guy we got when we didn't get Aaron Donald. I've already lost Kyle Fuller drops the pick 6. Similarly, we could not convert on that Jordan Love turn. Like again, that was the thing. And that was the thing I told Carmen is I had said, because she's like, he's playing so well. I'm like, he tried so hard to throw away or give away that game again, because he's dangerous. He's careless with the football. And he throws too many jump balls, and he's got too much reliance on his receivers to go out and make plays. Like, that stuff's going to run out. And she's like, no, he's placing it in the bucket. And I'm like, okay, well, the only bucket he placed it in was in the bucket of a 49ers defender at the end of that game. So I'm not giving him anything. Join me on Meatball Island. Okay, you spent too much time in Oshkosh or wherever during the offseason. Come back to the island and join me.
I love it.
You need to be.
You know it's game week because, Adam, you are as dialed in, I think, as I've ever had doing a show with you. So,
I'm in regular season mode now. It took me a minute. But now I'm here and I'm ready to get fired up and be heard again. But listen, hey, I want to thank you. And again, to let everybody know, this is going to be something that happens each and everywhere, mostly each and every week. We'll be on here and we're going to be opening the Forbidden Door. I will be joining CHGO with some regularity. And we got a lot of things. We got a lot of Forbidden Door things going on. I'm going to be joining Will Gavin across the pond a lot this year too. So we're getting out all over the place and it's going to be a lot of fun. But Greg, I want to thank you for being here. Before you go, just give your final score prediction and we'll roll out of here.
All right. So I think I have the Bears winning 27-17. I'll give 17 points to the Titans, even though I think it could even be a little less. Let me go back. 27-13 Bears. Caleb Williams throws for 3 touchdowns, couple field goals thrown in there. It's a fun day on the lakefront. The Bears defense dominating, putting Caleb Williams in some formidable positions, field positions. Torrey Taylor setting up the field position game. We haven't even talked about Torrey Taylor.
Oh, God. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
If the team starts off slow and we get some 3 and outs, like that could be Torrey Taylor time to kind of keep us in the game.
Yeah. So I got the Bears winning 27-13. And I'm excited for all of us to experience it and then celebrate it when it's all said and done.
All right. For the record, our producer, Sammy, has got 24-21 Titans. We'll give him his flowers. If that one works out, I'm going to take the Bears 23-10. We'll be doing all of our picks later on this week too, for our picks to click. What's the segment going to be called, Sammy? But our circa picks or all that good stuff. So we still got that coming up on top of everything else. So for Greg and Sammy, sick picks. That's what it's called. Sick podcast. So for Greg and Sammy and Anello, I'm Adam. Bear down, and Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by Circa Sports Illinois.